Avengers! Assemble.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Excelsior, the world's #1 Marvel's Avengers podcast. I'm your host, Christian Buckley, your director, excuse me. When's the last time I messed that up? Joining me as always is the Apex legend, Jack Martin.
Excelsior. Good to be back. Good to be talking Marvel's Avengers. Not for too long.
No, absolutely
Probably got some
not.
more stuff to talk about.
Oh boy. How you been, Jack? How's Marvel treating you?
I've been good. We'll talk about it more later or now. I don't really know when we'll talk about it, but this is the last recording before Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Fuck it, let's talk about it now. I didn't write it down in the show notes. Let's just do it here. Doctor Strange, 7 days from now, right?
Yes. Yeah, from this recording, April 28th, 7 days.
Nuts.
Yeah, like that kind of snuck up.
Yeah, it did.
Right? Like, they announced this, like, a while back. This was, like, that announcement with, like, WandaVision and all that in, like, the summer of 2019, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it's been known for quite some time, but the promotion really started around Spider-Man No Way Home. So, like, December to May. That seems like it'd be a long time, but, like, it's felt very quick. So, like, it really just kind of came up.
It really did, dude. It's wild. But the other night you texted me saying Strange hype's at an all-time high right now. I'm not at that level, so can you just like let me hear it, like try and get the vibes up? What has you so excited about this Doctor Strange movie? I want to be on that level with you.
So, I'm not like, I won't say I'm like Spider-Man No Way Home hype, of course, but I think I'm really excited for this because I know nothing about it, which I'm very excited about. Like, here and there, I've seen, like, the first couple trailers. But I've purposely muted everything about this movie. I'm not looking up theories or anything. I'm at the point now where I've done that for, like, most Marvel projects. And I wouldn't say it ruins the experience for me, but it's just, like, it kind of makes me know what to expect for that movie, for movies. And for this movie, I don't know what to expect. I don't even know the plot, which is awesome. So that's really exciting, and I think the fact that Sam Raimi's involved directing this movie, the potential for what we can see here is really exciting. And also Doctor Strange, the first movie at least, was like such a visual spectacle, and I think with everything with Disney Plus has kind of left me very meh. So I'm excited for like a big bombastic MCU movie.
I get that for sure, because I liked the first Doctor Strange film, I think, like a significant amount more than you do. And the visuals, absolutely, you're right, are part of the reason why it's so great. But I love Sam Raimi. I love the Sam Raimi Spideys. I love Doctor Strange, so I should be on that level. But I think I look at everything here, and I'm worried that it becomes... Do you ever watch the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour on Nickelodeon?
Yeah, yes. Mm-hmm.
Like... Maybe like the first Jimmy Timmy Power Hour is No Way Home, but then when you're on like Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 5, it's like, what are you doing? Cat dogs here? Is that Keenan and Kel in the background? Like, what are you doing, Nickelodeon? I'm afraid that that is what Sam Raimi had to work with this. But I hope it's none of that. I hope all the speculation and theories are honestly wrong, and it's just a simple, awesome Doctor Strange Sam Raimi movie. That would make me be on that level. I'm just maybe doubting that's what we're getting out of it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's been a worry for a while for you and me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried we get like over-the-top references to like the 2000s Marvel movies, like the bad ones, which I don't think would be fun. I think it'd be really interesting to take a peek into multiverse versions of MCU characters that we know.
Yeah.
Like, oddly enough, I just never thought of that, even though it's kind of like probably the most obvious thing that they could explore with the multiverse. And I think if they do that in interesting enough ways and it's not the main focus, I think that could be really interesting. So we'll see. I really don't... I have no clue what to expect for this. I don't even know, like, the running plot, which I think we like kind of know for most movies, but I really don't know what's going on for this one. So I'm excited for like the first 15 minutes to be like, oh, that's where we're going. Like that has me very excited.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe I won't say anything, but I feel like I have a general sense of like the inciting point of it. Obviously, there's questions we have after Doctor Strange's involvement with Spider-Man, right? So like we could assume maybe there's something tying these two movies together. But I guess the last thing I want to hear from you, because you're right, and many people are right, this movie could just be a cameo fest, and that could get very old. However, I would like to hear one cameo that you would be very happy to see in this film. Like you'd see this character cameo, you're like, hell yeah, that was good. And like Charlie Cox, Daredevil in or Matt Murdock in No Way Home level of just like a that's awesome. Good job. That's nice.
Um, Man, I immediately jumped to like Jake Gyllenhaal as Spider-Man, but I don't think they'd do that.
Yo.
Um,
That'd be so
the,
confusing for people.
yeah, I think like I just think like logistically that would make sense. Like if they had planned it like during his involvement in Far From Home, be like, hey, just put on the suit. We
Yeah.
got you for like one scene. But I don't know. I think with like that would probably be very difficult with like Sony and all that. So that's probably not going to happen. I don't know. Maybe in like a similar way, John Krasinski as Captain America, because I don't know if he auditioned.
I think he
Or
did.
like full, yeah, or like Tom Hiddleston as Loki or as Thor, because I know he auditioned for Thor. Like, I think those would be fun. I really like. It's hard to say because those are the kind of things I kind of don't want at the same time. I don't know. I know there's like some rumors about like some versions of characters that we'll see that that could be true. I know there's some like Iron Man theories and all that. I think that would be pretty interesting, but
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. Do you have any in mind?
It's there's one really like well there's two. Obviously, I think it would only be for literally like his involvement in First Class level, but like a Jackman appearance, just so we get one in the MCU. Because I do believe he's done. I don't think he'd do anything meaningful, but like just a quick peek through like a portal and he's like there and like the professor wheels back in or something like to that extent, just so we get like one Hugh Jackman thing. But the real answer, the thing that I think will happen and I'd be excited for is Deadpool, because we've all been waiting for a very long time to see another Deadpool thing. It's been what, 4 years at this point? Deadpool 2 was 2018, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, it's time to see something new out of Deadpool, and it seems like this might be a good way to introduce him with the meta level stuff. So Deadpool's my pick.
That's a good. It's a really good pick. Now, I think we talked about this before. Do you think that would be? Do you think that would also like tie into an end credit scene, setting up Deadpool 3?
I think so. Yeah. I think I pitched to you my hope of just Deadpool enters and then finds the actor Hugh Jackman and kills him so he can be the true star now. But I think it could be an end credit scene. I think that we could also maybe start to have Deadpool be the Stanley cameo, and that's just starts here. I think there's a variety of ways that Deadpool could be used in this, but I feel like it's inevitable almost.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to eventually see him. So
Yeah.
hopefully soon.
Well, we might have an idea of what decade we'll be able to see Deadpool, because we got some interesting news coming up later in the show. A lot of MCU stuff, a lot of Sony news. But before any of that, and of course Moon Knight, let's talk about this here Avengers game. Starting out, Fury's report. A few things in the game right now. Very strange, because there's 3 specials going on. And they all started today, and they all end on different days. Like, none of them overlap with the way they end. We have a double resource weekend going until May 2nd. We have the Red Room Takeover returning, running until May 12th. And then until May 5th, it's half off all takedowns. So, there you go. You got some things in the game right now.
Nothing exciting. I know we talked about last week. I think it was the Ruskaya protocols or something was running last week.
Vibranium.
Yeah, that was that one, which I think is, in my opinion, might be one of the least exciting ones. Red Room Takeover is probably one of the cooler events. At this point, we played it all 1,000 times, so there's not really much more you could do with it. I've been thinking about this. At this point, Christian, last year we had Hawkeye, and I think we had maybe the multiple hero event.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Red Room takeover would be in a couple weeks. So like we already had some things going, some new content. We have absolutely nothing, and we're like recycling content from last year, and that just sort of gives you the whole story of what's going on with this game right now. There's like no progression right now.
Yep. And if I'm being honest, I would not expect anything notable on the road to Jane Foster in, I believe the hearsay is sometime in June or July. So, yeah, buckle up, I guess, for a couple weeks of more repeated things. Hopefully, as we approach the what is typical E3 time period. We heard Xbox announce an event earlier today. I know Square Enix has their Square Enix Presents banner that maybe we could hear something out of Avengers. Maybe they show Jane there or something. But of course, we'll be keeping our eyes peeled on things coming to the game between now and then. Like skins, Jack. We got skins every week. That's the true constant in life.
Yes, the only thing we really get on a regular basis for this game.
Yes. So what is in the marketplace for skins this week?
So we still got the Thor. Trying to even remember this. Oh, the Thor, or excuse me, the Hulk. Strange but True outfit. This is like the black and white one, which is really cool. That's still in the marketplace. But the new one this week, which I think is very cool. This is a 1,400 credit skin, deservedly so. This is, the Thor's Asgardian Destroyer outfit. Now this is basically Thor wearing the Destroyer skin. This is like based on a comic, but like this is basically Thor wearing the Destroyer outfit from Thor 1, the movie. And it looks really cool. He's like in an all metal getup, excellent cape going on, and his voice is actually distorted in game.
Whoa, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I saw a video of people playing around with it, and he sounds like Jarvis almost, like in that level of distortion. So it's pretty cool. This is definitely like worthy of that high level exotic price point, and it looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this one. I do not have the credits on me, but genuinely, if I did, I think I would go in on this because it's a very unique skin. I like the Destroyer look, very like angular, sleek armor. It's super cool. And I didn't know, like what you said, the distortion stuff, that reminds me of some of those other skins where we had like the molten lava effect on them, you know? So like
Yeah.
there's things that are layered into the skins beyond just the cosmetic value of them, which I think is a very good thing when they're able to balance that out, you know, the way we've seen like MC Mjolnir or the MCU shield, or I think there was another Captain America shield that was like the gilded steampunk one that was like a variation.
Yep.
So yeah, whenever they get a little more beyond just the standard character model, I appreciate that, and I think this is an awesome skin for Thor.
Yeah, if I was still playing the game, I would probably get this at like a half off price point because these go on sale all the time. So
Oh yeah,
I'll probably wait for that. Yeah, it's really cool. I always love Thor's helmet look, and like the wings on this helmet are ridiculous. I'm zooming in on it. They're huge. They're massive. It looks really cool. So many rivets on this, Christian. That's what I love about this. So many rivets that they have to pound in to get this skin to hold itself together. So very cool. I like this one a lot. Probably one of the better Thor skins.
for sure. There are two free things in the marketplace right now. There is a Ms. Marvel skin to celebrate Eid at the moment, and there's also I think, resource XP booster or something like that as your free claim of the week. But yeah, exciting stuff on the skin front this week. As usual, that's the lifeblood of the game at the moment, and we will, I'm sure, next week see something new in addition to these. I think it would be cool, if we could get like obviously not a Doctor Strange thing, but like something mystical for one of these characters.
Yeah, it's tough with Doctor Strange and Moon Knight coming out. They can't really connect to those because the characters aren't featured in the game. Did we even get like a or a Moon Knight like banner or anything
No.
like nameplate? That's actually surprising now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I think that's not super surprising to me, but it is strange, because
Yeah,
we've had the conversation before. It's PNGs. I know they have to go through like layers of different teams to get approvals for poster and marketing materials and stuff, but
yeah. I guess now that I'm thinking about it, we never got one for like the Eternals, um, or Spider-Man or Shang-Chi. So I guess that's in line with what we've seen before. Like they're connecting it with characters that exist in the game, which makes sense. Um, but yeah, it is for this to be like the Marvel game, which it certainly isn't. Now that I said that, but it's kind of supposed to be. It feels a little strange not to have that connection to the MCU.
yeah, so maybe we'll get something next week. Like maybe there's some crossover comic where one of the heroes in the game teamed up with Doctor Strange and they got some sort of cool armor. The way that Spidey gets the magic web shooter in No Way Home. Maybe we work something in with it for a hero next week, but I would not hold my breath. I remember so innocently, just maybe 16, 14 months ago, we all thought we'd be getting a character like Doctor Strange in the game around May. Remember that?
Yeah,
Oh boy, how naive we were.
that would be awesome, but that's never happening.
Nope. And that's it for Avengers this week. So meanwhile, let's you want the Sony chunk or you want the you know what? Let's do the Sony chunk first because I think we can lean into our Moon Knight talk with this first piece on the dock.
Sure.
First up, Cinemacon. I've asked 3 people this, Jack. Have you ever heard of Cinemacon?
No, Cinemacon sounds like a made-up event.
Right?
Like you've said it, you just said it, and it sounds like I may have heard it, but I may have heard it from like a fake Twitter account saying like someone said something at CinemaCon this week, and they're unverified. Being like, I need to look into multiple things about this tweet.
Right? Like, Cinemacon feels like the name of a convention that, like, the gang on Community would go to.
Right? Yes, like a fake convention.
Yeah. So, like,
Yep.
as far as I'm aware, Cinemacon happened last year, and I didn't question it then because we got, like, 1 or 2 news stories out of it. I was like, okay, whatever, cool. I guess this is, like, a film thing. And then this year, like, every studio's dropping news at this thing. I've never heard of this before, but we're getting bombs out of this thing, including the future of the Sony Spider-Man universe, the next live-action film, El Muerto, based off the wrestling superhero in the Spider-Man comic rogue universe. It's in production at Sony Pictures with Bad Bunny, the rap artist, to star as the titular El Muerto.
This also seems like a fake news story.
Right.
And I'm going to need you to explain everything you just said. Because I don't know who El Muerto is, and I don't know who Bad Bunny is.
So, Jack, I'm 25.
Mm-hmm.
I have left. The last time I was on top of the hip hop rap, who the kids like scene was like Lil Yachty in like my freshman or sophomore year of college.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go back into like my Paramore, my Taylor Swift, and my Kendrick Lamar.
Sure.
And maybe pop out here or there for like Tyler or somebody else. I guess Bad Bunny's on the level of like something like a Lil Pump, right?
Okay.
Of like that generation. And apparently Sony thought he'd be a good lead for El Muerto. So Honestly, Jack, I have more faith in this film being more entertaining than Morbius. And granted, I haven't seen Morbius, but I would at least probably maybe buy a ticket to this. I don't know.
So I looked up his very brief filmography because I guess he's been in one movie and two movies are coming out. He
Is
was
it
in
a Judd
F9.
Apatow film?
No, he was
Okay.
in Fast 9.
Oh, okay.
He was a lookout.
Okay.
I don't know if his name is Lookout or if he was a lookout.
Okay.
So who knows? El Muerto is apparently a very, very unknown Marvel character. Like, have you heard of this character ever before?
Never in my life.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are like, who's that?
And maybe that's why I feel like this could be entertaining, right? Because there's zero expectations. Like zero. I mean absolute zero. I mean you put something in this room, it's gonna freeze because that's how little there is going on with the mind share on El Muerto. So like Morbius, I feel like I had heard the name before the movie got announced. So like
Yeah, he was in the Spider-Man 3 adaptation video game.
that's what it was. Yeah, you're right. I did. I remember that fighting him in the warehouse, dude. Okay.
I remember doing that like as a kid and not like putting one and one together until like very recently, like around when Morbius came out, and I rewatched like a little bit of that scene. I was like, that was Morbius, and that was why I forgot him.
Sure. So, I think there, like, am I grasping here? Am I reaching, thinking that maybe this could be a fun turn your brain off, whatever sort of thing? Like, there's no stakes for this, right?
No, I don't think you could upset fans of El Muerto because I think there are very few fans of El Muerto. More Bad Bunny fans, I would imagine, than El Muerto fans.
Sure.
So,
And
I don't know.
to me, this reminds me, I don't know if there's a single example of this, but this screams to me like in early 2000s, we have a performer or a celebrity that we're putting as the lead of this film simply because, you know?
Yeah, that's a good call. This is like a. I'm trying to think of like I was thinking like Halle Berry Catwoman, or who played Elektra, Jessica.
Jennifer Garner.
Yeah, maybe it's not on that level. But I know what you're getting at.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like I don't mean this as a comparison because I think Beyonce's way more talented, but like Beyonce in the Pink Panther, I know that was a Steve Martin film, but like she's just there
yeah.
because they could, you know?
I got you. And now she was great as Foxy Cleopatra in Austin Powers. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it just has those vibes. And I think Sony's been able to like corner that market, you know, on like the, hey, we're making superhero movies that existed from 2005 to 2007. And nobody else is doing that right now. So
They love that vibe. They really do.
and honestly, maybe it's because we grew up in that period, but I think here or there, a sprinkle of that can't hurt. And I think that sprinkle is the Venom films. So like, for
Christian,
me, at
I
least.
would rather watch the Venom films like 100 times than see Morbius once.
Yeah.
So that says something. Not much, but sure.
So, El Muerto was the next Sony Spider-Man universe film announced for their slate that's joining Madam Web. I think there was like a leak rumor list of a bunch of other projects recently, and El Muerto is the first one that's been confirmed. So,
Yeah.
look forward
Madam
to
Web's
it.
coming out like next year.
It is? Did that come out of CinemaCon too?
Let me confirm. Yeah, I saw that it was like slated for like 2023.
Damn.
Yeah, which that's soon. That's very soon.
That is soon. I mean, Sony. Say what you will about Sony Pictures, right? And I'll say plenty of things, but they produced Uncharted very quickly once they actually had a cast.
Yeah.
you know? So maybe they just do everything on a soundstage.
Christian,
Yeah.
this is going to be the July 4th weekend. July, well, around there. July 7th, 2023 is Madam Web.
Dude. Honestly, I love Dakota Johnson, so I'm in, but I don't have much faith.
That movie doesn't scream big July 4th weekend movie.
What if it does though? What if it's like what if they put Sydney Sweeney in a Spider Gwen getup and it's just a fun Spider Universe movie? What if it's that?
That'd be something. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about this movie.
Yeah.
That also screams like a movie that will not come out next year.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like they're shooting Kraven the Hunter right now, also, so maybe that's next year too. I don't know.
Oh man.
Yeah.
The more I think about the Sony movies that are being made that are in live action, the more depressed I get.
Maybe Morbius was just a fluke. You know, maybe we can get back to that Venom consistency, and then we can have some exciting universe building
Yes.
going on.
We desperately need to get back to the consistency of the Venom franchise.
Hey, I think if they're anything, they're consistent out of those two movies. You know.
I suppose.
Speaking of consistent, Spider-Verse. Does Spider-Verse exist if it's not getting delayed? Because it got delayed again.
Yeah, it sure did.
It got pushed out of this holiday season. I believe it was October of this year. It is now releasing in 2023. I think it got pushed to May, correct?
I don't know. It really, this is the hardest delay that we've had so far for this movie. Because 2022 seemed like forever whenever this was announced. Be like, oh, that's a made-up year. And now we're here. And now it's got delayed again. What's like the rationale? Like the movie's done. Or, I don't know. This is my lack of film knowledge. But like you would expect it's mostly done. I don't really understand.
I wonder if delays hit harder for animated films because if something's going wrong, it's a lot more intensive of a process to fix.
Yeah, you're probably right.
You know? So maybe that could be it. I think that might be something that we have to consider. It is unfortunate that this is going to be like a 4 year gap between Spider-Verse and Spider-Verse 2.
Oh man, yeah, you're right. Wow,
Yeah.
Spider-Verse came out a while ago at this point.
Yeah, that was 2018.
Yeah, it's another 4-year-old movie.
Yeah, that's gonna be 5 almost when the sequel comes out, Across the Spider-Verse. But there were a few details. I think they said there's some arbitrary number that probably means nothing, but like 200 something characters in this movie, right?
Oh, I didn't see that, but that man.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't go too far with this thing.
We got to do every single spider reference that exists. We got to do every single character. Yuri Lowenthal's in this film. You know that, right?
Oh, is that confirmed?
No, but he's in this. You know that.
I would imagine that he and the live-action Spider-Man are in this movie. Because I know they wanted to do the live-action Spider-Man as like a reference Into the Spider-Verse, so gotta imagine they have that locked in now, right?
Probably, yeah. And if not there, then maybe in Spider-Verse 3, which is going to be called Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, they dropped the part 1, part 2.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. They did that with Infinity War and Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering. I don't know. Is that a box office thing? Like, how many movies do that anymore? Like, I know Harry Potter 7 was part 1, part 2. Not sure how that affected the box office. Twilight, of course, had a Breaking Dawn part 1, part 2. And I'm struggling to think of like any modern examples of like sequels that are also like split up between 1 and 2. I can't really think of many in the past like 5 years.
Yeah, I can't either. I know there's one in my head that it's like obviously duh it's this one because I think there was one, but to your point, it's rare, right? And I think Spider-Verse, maybe because the delays are happening, maybe they don't want to lock into the expectation that the story of Across the Spider-Verse will maybe be completed 5 years later. God forbid Beyond gets delayed a bunch like this one is. So maybe that's the pivot. I've seen some people speculate that Beyond the Spider-Verse could be implying that we go live action at one point,
Oh my god.
which I think could be interesting. I don't know if I buy it, but that could be fun. Maybe we get to see Miles break out of animation and into live action, and that's the Sony Spider-Man. I would not enjoy that, I don't think, but it would be fun if we just hop to a live action verse for a moment, right?
I think that we'll probably get that like in a scene, like a SpongeBob above the sea scene.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's probably what we'll get at some point or another.
Yeah. So that's the update on Spider-Verse and the Sony Marvel Universe at the moment.
Real quick, Beyond the Spider or Across the Spider-Verse is June 2nd, 2023, and Beyond is scheduled for March of 2024.
Thank you.
So,
We will see. Oh boy.
Much less of a wait.
Yeah, for now,
Yeah, who knows? But I think they must be developing these movies in tandem
Yeah, they have
in a
to
way
be.
that like they probably had to get the green light to make a sequel to Into the Spider-Verse, and they were like, all right, let's just do it right now. Let's like finish it off.
Yeah, hopefully, because
So good.
yeah,
Spider-Verse is so good.
it is so good, and Sony can put out at least a couple gems here or there.
Yeah. Venom, Spider-Verse.
Exactly. That's you took the words out of my mouth.
I know.
Well, we have some other interesting stuff going on in the greater Marvel world, specifically the MCU. Multiple like outlets, fan blogs, anybody, Culture Crave tweeted it out, so you know what's happening. Kevin Feige and some Marvel creatives have gone on this fun little retreat that I'm imagining he planned because he's a planner. They're going on this retreat. He's there right now to plan the next 10 years of the MCU. How many projects is that, do you think?
Too many.
Yeah.
Too many is the right answer. I think you suggested in a text like 50 projects,
I
which is
think
like
that was
not.
cutting it short also.
Yeah, I think you're right. That is 5 a year, if my math is correct.
Yeah.
And in what 2021 there was 9 or 10.
This
I
year.
don't want that many. That's
Yeah,
too many.
man. Yeah, I'm pulling out the calculator right now, right? Let's just say for the sake of an average, we'll say 8.
Yeah.
8 projects across movies and shows. I'm gonna do a quick times 10. That is 80 on my iPhone screen, Jack. 80 Marvel projects. Do you know how many we have right now?
How many right now? Are we 30 now?
I think we're in the low 30s, yeah.
See, that's a lot. Man, we can't be doing that. I gotta say, that's too many. If they stuck to 5 a year, which I think is probably even still too many projects, that is much more consumable than 8 to 10 per year. And obviously these are going to be like smaller projects along the way too. Like you're going to get like the holiday specials or like whatever I Am Groot is or things like that. But even still, I don't know. I know like that conversation of saturation has been talked about so many times starting in the early 2000s and it's still been going on, and that really there's no clear answer about that. Like superhero movies are in and will be in for quite some time. But man, if you just keep pounding the dirt with superhero stuff, like it's eventually gonna give. I can't keep up. And not everyone can keep up with that. Obviously, they're gonna be more popular projects like Spider-Man is always gonna be in. But I don't know, too much stuff.
And that's where I'm at right now. Because we had a conversation last week. We talked about Moon Knight, and then it kind of evolved into just a fatigue discussion about Marvel. So, do you think there's any world? Because Kevin Feige, I think, is a smart man, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
you have to be to be that successful and be so carefully orchestrating and like literally influencing the entire, maybe not the entire film industry, right? But like you have so many people chasing what you do. And so far, he's been able to pivot when he needs to, and it's been able to be just an exponential success. I think he's smart enough to realize that maybe there may be a bit too much if we keep going down this trajectory, right? So, do you think there's any chance that in this retreat of planning 10 years worth of content that they set a new standard for the output rate? Because I know it's only gone up, I think maybe with the exception of 1 year and of course the pandemic year, but I don't know. Do you think that there's any world where he does settle on, let's do 3 shows a year and 2 movies a year, or vice versa, or 3 and 3? Like, do you think there's any chance?
I think the 3 and 3 is probably most likely,
Mm-hmm.
and like you kind of alternate that throughout the year, like a beginning of the year, summer, winter show, and definitely like July 4th weekend movie, end of the year movie, probably 2 end of the year movies, honestly. I think that's probably where they settle. I don't think 9 projects per year is the norm. I think like what you mentioned too, or what you mentioned earlier, like they were probably catching up from COVID and like had to have a bunch of projects released that year just to get them out, um, along with the stuff they had planned previously. So that was probably a different, obviously releasing stuff under different circumstances. I can't even think of like what we're getting this year. I don't think it's 9. I'm gonna look that up right now, but I don't think they do that every year. And if they do, I think that's when people start to tail off and be like, all right, we are getting too much stuff.
Even then, though, I wonder, because like you and I, we grew up with the MCU, and we've been with it for the full, what, 12, 13, 14? How long? How old is it now?
2008?
Yeah, it's 14 now.
Mm-hmm.
As of like, I think next week. Um, we've been with it the whole time, and then we always hear that discussion that you talk about of like, oh, fatigue, and growing up we roll our eyes because we're enjoying it and we're like, okay, old man, you stay mad, you know. But I wonder if for the people who have been with it since 2008 or even maybe 2012 when Avengers came out, how many people feel like it might be getting too much. um I know there's some people who did say that they just decided to bounce on Endgame because they felt like it was good and they don't want to be committed to having to be on top of so many things. But the younger people, like I'm talking like middle school, freshman, high school fans of Marvel right now, they're just getting this constantly. And if I was that age when I was like Age of Ultron lead up and we were getting so much stuff so frequently, I would have been over the moon. So like I don't know if they would bend to the long-standing voices that are like, "Hey, maybe pump the brakes," because then what? They'll just say, "Hey, just don't watch the stuff you don't want to watch," because everybody
Yeah,
else is watching it.
it is probably gonna be at that point, and like there's no there's no data saying people are like getting tired of Marvel.
No.
If anything, it's getting like more popular. So, um, when that, I mean, if that time comes, then maybe they'll reevaluate. But I mean, they're taking the kind of exact opposite approach that Star Wars has taken, which has become a lot more sparse, and was I think immediately after Disney bought Star Wars was going to take a Marvel approach, and I think critically and at some points in the box office, that sort of dictated Star Wars to slow things down a bit. But that just hasn't happened for Marvel, so they're kind of increasing the output. So Yeah, I think we're probably gonna be. I did look up the numbers. I think we're getting 7 projects this year, so I think
Okay,
we'll probably do like 6 or 7 each year, which is a lot still.
it still is a lot, absolutely. But I think as long as each thing is doing something different, it's still going to be okay. Because I want to ask you, like, let's say that is the norm, right? The first thing Feige says, 6 per year. By the time this retreat is over, we're all going to have tans, and it's going to be 60 projects on a document. What do you think you need as a long running MCU fan to stay invested, stay interested? Is there any one solution, or do you think it's just maybe shaking up the formula for the next 10 years? What do you think? Do you have an answer?
No, I don't. I don't think I do because I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about this recently. I kind of feel like I've gotten everything out of the MCU after
Mm-hmm.
Endgame. Obviously, we've had some really great stuff after that movie, but um, we are certainly exploring characters that not a lot of people know. So that will lead to a certain point, which I'm not very sure what like that's going to look like. Obviously, we'll get some more Avengers movies at some point or another. Um, I really don't know what I want out of the MCU. I feel like I've gotten it all, and now we're just kind of getting bonus content, in my opinion. Um, that's the way I look at it. So I'm not really sure. What about you?
I think, obviously, like you said, we've clearly enjoyed the majority of things that have released. I was going to say this generation since Phase 4 started, right? Um, and I don't think they've done anything like bad. And I don't know how you feel, but I still think that what we've gotten out of Phase 4 so far, I think Phase 4 is stronger than Phase 1.
It's been the most hit or miss for me.
Sure. I still think with like something like a No Way Home and Shang-Chi and
Yeah,
WandaVision and even Loki and Falcon, like there are more projects that were good and some higher highs. Because like Phase 1, I think you have shining stars with Iron Man 1, Cap 1, Avengers, yeah. And for me, I really love Thor, but like
me too.
even amongst those, there's a lot of quality dips, there's a lot of inconsistencies.
And you got Hulk,
Do
which is like
you?
objectively like one of the worst, one of the worst ones.
Yeah. So I think maybe the thing they need right now is to introduce something that feels like we're building somewhere, you know? Like, how many projects does Phase 4 have at this point
Oh man.
so far?
So far,
Yeah.
I'd have to look that up. I'm not sure.
Because we had the. Last year we had WandaVision, Loki, Falcon, What If, Hawkeye, and then movies were Black Widow,
Let's see.
Shang-Chi, Eternals.
So, including like ones that are coming out, we
Just so
have
far, just so far.
just so far then Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man. Um that's for 2021, and then we have WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Hawkeye, now Moon Knight. But there's multiple others coming out.
Right. So I wasn't counting that, but I would bet to say that that's at least double what Phase 1 had.
Yeah.
So at that point, and I think that might even be approaching what Phase 2 had, like total, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Both of those phases, I think pretty early on, they give you something to look forward to when we got the culmination with Avengers. And I think because we've had a phase worth of projects already, and it feels like Phase 4 is still just starting. It doesn't feel like, or maybe it does kind of feel aimless because like, what are we building towards necessarily? Is it Multiverse of Madness? Is that what we've been building up?
No, I don't think it's that. For the build-up, I think multiverse is somehow involved. I'm not really sure like what that's going to be. It does feel weird not knowing, well, like the big team up end project of Phase 4 is going to be. Because those are like what you said. Those are kind of always the projects you look forward to progress the MCU as a whole.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It feels weird. I don't really know how to feel about the future because there's not something necessarily to look forward to right now. In
Yeah,
that regard.
for sure. And I think because the MCU has always been constantly setting up other things in the background, the benefit was that setup was like, oh, that's a puzzle piece that will clue us into this place that we're clearly heading towards, you know? And Phase 4 has had a lot of setup, but we don't know what we're building towards. So I feel like it just might start to feel a bit more exhausting of like, yeah, another character is getting set up for why, you know?
Yeah, and I think we're also getting smaller team ups like I forget the name, but like Blade and Moon Knight and was it Black Knight? They're
Yeah.
part of what are they like the Midnight Suns, right?
So
Or something
yeah,
else?
the Midnight Suns is more of those demon things. Like I know Ghost Rider's
Yeah.
involved, and we got the game coming up too. So like I think that's a similar team.
Right. Yeah, I think we'll get like smaller collections team up movies like that, including like the bigger like we'll also get like Young Avengers, I would imagine, which seems a smaller scale than like the normal Avengers. So I think we'll get like smaller ones like that, and then eventually big ones. But yeah, I don't know. Like, well, we have Galactus probably to look forward to as like a big threat eventually. Kang is hovering. It's a little unclear at the moment.
Yeah. So maybe that's something they can do soon to sort of quell some, not worry, but just like, where are we going here exactly? Sort of a questioning, rather than just like, oh, what's next? What's next? What's next? Um, I also want to know if you were Kevin Feige, you sit down at this retreat. What is the first thing you slap on that whiteboard? You as Kevin Feige, not like what you think Kevin Feige would do.
No, you're right. I like everyone's suggestion of like a Spider-Man team up movie.
Mm-hmm.
So either I would say Spider-Man plus blank question mark, and let the majority decide. Spider-Man plus Shang-Chi question mark. Spider-Man plus Daredevil question mark. That's where I go. I don't have any characters from the comics that I want to explore because kind of got them all of the A-list and B-list ones. We're going C and D now, so I that's where my knowledge sort of taps out. But that's probably where my head's at. What about you, Mister Feige? Where do you go?
I would take the marker. I would write in lowercase M A capital R lowercase v lowercase e lowercase l, and then underline the R 3 times and say we need at least 10 of these 60 projects to be the guiding of our. DC calls it their black label for their comics. I think Marvel called it Marvel Max or something, but like R-rated content. Like plan out a good amount of R-rated content for the MCU,
Okay.
because I think obviously we all love Daredevil, we all love some Punisher stuff. Like some of the Netflix stuff is good and it is very dark. I think the MCU might need a little bit of a shot in the arm when it comes to what they're able to touch on thematically. And I think the freedom of the R rating could help with that. I also think that I want the X-Men to like maybe not all be rated R movies, but like the X-Men should be able to touch on more adult, serious themes and present it that way. So I think the conversation could spew out from that. Think rated R, what do you want to do? And then it's like, well, I think we should get really in the weeds with Magneto as a character. Okay, maybe that pushes PG-13, but that's still spewing off this conversation, you know? So I think that's where I'd start.
That's an excellent call. We're definitely going to see some R-rated stuff with like, why am I Deadpool? Why did I forget
Yeah.
that? So I think that's a really great call. That'd be a good stepping stone to go forward with some other entities. Something that your idea has sparked in me, I would really like the MCU to have non-canon movies. Just be like, hey, we have like all of these superheroes that we can play around with. Let's just do like this this is a multiverse movie. Like, and it has nothing to do with like the sacred timeline or whatever. Like, let's just do this story. I think that'd be cool.
So a live action What If, essentially.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I think that'd be really fun. I mean, talk about like the potential to make a lot of money with some of those.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know. Let's just have these characters played by whatever actors. Like, you could get Iron Man or Captain America back or whatever, in just like these random instances from like the comics that you want, or just any idea that you want. That'd be cool. I know they're doing like Marvel Zombies, so something like that would be cool.
Well, I'm looking forward to the day that after this retreat is done, Kevin Feige walks out on a stage with a new baseball hat that has just a big fat 5 on it, and then he talks about some of these projects that he planned on this fateful retreat. When do you think we hear about it? Next year, year after?
Yeah, I don't know about this one. Is probably next year. When's the last time he came out and gave one of those?
I think it was 2019. Well, there was the Investor Day thing, but that was a little different.
I feel like we're due for one of those.
Yeah.
For like the movies, at least.
Yeah.
I guess we do have a lot coming up though, so I don't know.
Yeah, because I think the furthest thing out is Blade.
Yep.
And
that's phase 5 now, right?
I think they said Blade is the first phase 5 project, yes.
Okay.
Which, speaking of rated R, I hope, But,
yeah, that has to be.
Am I misremembering, or did they put a 2023 on Blade?
Ooh, I think Blade is still TBA at the moment.
Because, yeah, I remember the bookend of Phase 4 and the start of Phase 5, I believe, was supposed to be Fantastic Four and Blade. But I think things might have shifted around, I forget.
Christian, I got to shut the shade on my window. I'm blinded right now. So if you could just take over for the next 30 seconds.
Sure. For those listening, Agents of Excelsior, the other thing before I wanted to get all fun with my little whiteboard imagery was Ghost Rider. I want a Ghost Rider film. Get Nick Cage back? No, honestly. I love Nick Cage. I haven't seen his films. The Ghost Rider films, I've seen Nick Cage films. But I like the demons. I like the Marvel demons. And I think we got Moon Knight already. We got Blade. Ghost Rider's on that list. It's got to be soon. So here's hoping.
Man, I keep forgetting about Ghost Rider.
Yeah, dude. Johnny Blaze. What a character name, dude. You're telling me you don't want that on a big screen? Come on.
That is something I don't want on a big screen.
Is he the one that screams flame on? Or is that the Human Torch?
No, that's Human Torch.
Oh, okay.
We're getting one of those again at some point.
At some point. Is it going to be Chris Evans next week?
See, that's the kind of cameos I don't want.
Yeah, dude. Before I forget, I was going to throw it out there at some point too. Let John Cena play Captain America just for one moment. If it's multiverse, if it's a spin-off thing in your What If live action verse, anything.
Sure. He's got the chops for superhero with Peacemaker, so could be done.
Yeah. You know that Spider-Man comic I bring up all the time of the Captain America, like, screw the U.S. During the Vietnam era?
Yes.
I think John Cena would eat up that Captain America.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
So. Get weird,
again,
Marvel.
One of those, like, the DC has, like, the Batman and, like, movies that, like, that exist in their own universe, like Joker and all that. Do that with John Cena.
Yeah. Well, with that, it's time for Moon Knight. Episode 5. The Internet Jack, once again, has some opinions on this one. I feel like you've been on the outside of the internet take every week, so I want to start with you. What did you think of this episode?
I'm I'm aligned with the internet this week. I think this is the best episode of Moon Knight, mostly because it is similar to my favorite episode of WandaVision, where Wanda like goes back in time and revisits her trauma, which sounds bad. That's my favorite, but I think it's the most emotionally impactful episode, and I think that's consistent with this episode as well. Really enjoyed it. I liked having the time to breathe with Mark and Steven, going back in time. Really, just I never really thought like, oh, what was it like for Mark as a young kid? And I thought that was really interesting to explore, and it's very important and tells why he is the way he is today. And I thought they handled it very well. A little nervous about like how we're gonna lead into the finale because it seems like there's a lot to set up and continue, and it seems like a lot of like the main plot has been abandoned a little bit. But I really enjoyed this episode as a standalone. What about you?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I think it's one of the strongest single episodes one of their shows has had so far, honestly. Uh, Mainly because they went there, you know? Like I know you made your comment about it's weird that this is your favorite type of thing, but that's supposed to be the benefit of a television show. Like you can really get in to the psyche of a broken character and like process what they're going through and let that breathe that you don't necessarily get to do in every single movie that releases. So for that reason, I'm with you. I really did love this episode. And um I also have questions about where we're going. So I guess that was the spoiler free part. We can get more into the open discussion of the episode. Um, yeah, I have to imagine we're just going straight to a big fight, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be another boring, bad finale in the MCU. That's exactly what's gonna happen.
So, like, presumably Mark has shed the Steven personality because he's dealt with the reason that Steven was created, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where we leave off. There's still the question of what's this third personality that I think could come into play. Is that going to just tease a new project? I don't know. But Mark has to get to Khonshu, who is still in that weird. Was that in an actual pyramid or was that some plane of existence?
Um,
The statue.
like was that the convening of all the gods and their
Yeah.
avatars? That seemed to me like it was on another plane of existence.
Okay.
I don't know though.
Well, we left off with Mark in that in between underworld area, right? So maybe he just has to make a quick pit stop with his big boat and grab the Khonshu statue and crush it. I don't know, like release him to fight Arthur Harrow alligator version. Is that what we're getting?
I'm really not looking forward to what we're getting. Like, it's just gonna be a big, stupid, dumb fight. Like, I'd be very surprised if it wasn't this. Big, stupid, dumb fight, resolved, and then show's over.
Do you think? Again, maybe this is a question that I know that your answer to. Like when I asked you about Kevin Feige scaling back, do you think there's any chance we don't have a fight next week and instead we get derailed by Mark being taken over by this other personality?
I think there's 100% a fight next week.
Yeah, you're right. But
And I'm like a bit confused about the third personality, because they've set it up not a lot, but they've certainly referenced it with, I think it was like the third episode where they're like, "Hey, why were you doing that?" And they're like, "That wasn't me either." And there was the sarcophagus in the episode 4, I want to say. So it's been slightly teased, but I feel like that might be like an end credits thing. For them to bring that up in the very last episode, I think would be kind of out of the blue. for that, like I feel like you'd have to spend some time with that in like a previous episode to really set that up. So I don't know. I think this is gonna be a really sloppy episode.
Yeah, I guess this is a good place to introduce this rumor floating around right now. Apparently, the finale is only 44 minutes long and is going to be the shortest finale of all the live action MCU shows so far. So, clearly, a lot to cover in the shortest amount of time we've had for a finale.
Yeah, definitely a lot. Like we had a whole episode away from Layla, and like that relationship has sort of left on a beat that we weren't really like finished with her father and all, and Mark being involved with his death. The main villain was kind of gone throughout that episode as well. Like he was there in the background, but we haven't really like checked in on him. And I thought it was kind of weird how they kind of introduced like, oh, his plan has started, and they were in the afterlife. So we like didn't really get to see it. We just saw like the souls coming down. So yeah, it seems like there's a lot to cover, and if it's true and it's only 44 minutes long, man, I don't know about that one. But this episode I loved. It was great.
Yeah, do you have a favorite moment? I know there's a lot of heavy stuff in this episode, like
Yes.
child abuse, and I was genuinely like surprised. I know Marvel has done some like dark stuff in the MCU, but that hit different, I think.
Yeah, and I think that sort of goes back to the quote of Kevin Feige saying like this is like the darkest project that we've done. And I think for that, like that topic alone, certainly is very dark. So I think that's not like one of those marketing things. I feel like that's probably earned with the tone and the topics they discussed here, which I think they handled very well, and it was very sad to see, honestly. And I think it was I don't know if it was anything in particular. Maybe it was like the Mark or the Steven sort of forgiving Mark moment. But just in general, I really liked the interplay between those two characters. And honestly, it was probably Oscar Isaac's performance, because you kind of forget that he's playing two roles in the same show, and it's because he's doing it so well. So I thought that was pretty excellent. What about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. It was nice to get to see him flex because I do think obviously the MCU has some really big heavy hitter actors on their payroll, but I think when it comes to raw talent, like Oscar Isaac is just on another level with some of them, and being able to flex some of that, I think beyond just the impressive thing that you mentioned of just you kind of melt away the fact that he's playing two characters in this show, which is already impressive. Like just seeing what he brings out for this episode, I think is a reminder of like, hey, let this dude act because he can do it real well. Like he can really sell some stuff. And I think that was very clear by the very, very strong emotional conversations that Mark and Steven had. Like having to get on those very vulnerable levels for both characters in the same scene is nuts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I heard recently that I think maybe Tim Geddes from Kind of Funny said Oscar Isaac like isn't on contract with Marvel. Is that true? That you know of?
Yeah, so I think apparently Marvel has switched away from like the 5 film contract. Like I think initially it was like 8 movies for the OG six, and then it just started being 5, and I think now it's just per project. So
Yes. So I would imagine like we're gonna see him again, but um, yeah, right now like if I don't think this will be his only role, because that's just not how Marvel works. But yeah, I imagine we're gonna see him a lot, and we'll get to see his character grow. Not sure where we're gonna end up at the end of this series, but give him a movie.
yeah,
Like
man.
I think I'm gonna fall like somewhere on the middle of this show. Like I really liked the first and fifth episodes of this show. We'll see how the finale goes, but this will probably fall in like the middle of my rankings at some point. But I feel like if he had like a really high quality movie with like a high budget, that would be great. This would be one of those I would want to see a rated R Moon Knight movie for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think my expectation going into next week, I think my top two shows are WandaVision and Loki. And depending on how we go next week, would probably decide if this is number 2 or number 3 for me.
Interesting.
Because I think, some fluff aside, the highs of the show for me have been really solid. And I think the technical stuff they do with how they present the split is really like fresh, even though there's a lot of familiar Marvel stuff and familiar just action movie tropes in the series. But I think with this episode specifically and episode 1, they really hit you with the uniqueness of the character and, I guess, the places they can go with the character. So I think if the finale can be very satisfying on an emotional narrative front, then it might get closer to WandaVision. But I am, like you, expecting just standard fare for the finale and a tease of what's to come, and it'll probably just like hover around where Loki is for me, where I really loved some of those episodes and what it did for the character, but overall it's like, it's okay, it's good.
Yeah, no, I feel similar to the show, in a way I did with Falcon and the Winter Soldier at the end of things. Like, I really do enjoy that show, and I loved the way they handled the relationship between Bucky and, why am I forgetting Sam's name? Yeah. I think that relationship was handled very well, and I think that was the core of the show. Everything else just was kind of in the background. Like, the main plot of that show was just kind of whatever. And I think this show is kind of similar. Like, I really do enjoy the characterization of Mark and Steven. I think they handle that very well in this show. I think just the main plot is kind of boring.
It kind of doesn't exist.
No, it really doesn't. Like, I don't really care about what's going on with the villain. Like, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, we gotta go do that, I suppose. And it's just, I don't know, it's kind of generic in that regard, in the plot at least.
How did you feel about Ethan Hawke in this episode? Because I'm with you on Arthur Harrow just being kind of whatever. I like Ethan Hawke. I can clearly see he's trying something with the first 4 episodes, but being able to see him repurpose the character as this projection for Mark, I liked a lot. I'm curious how you felt about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I liked his acting in this. He wasn't even like, if he was being antagonistic, it was like a very subtle antagonism, which was good, but I'm not really sure how, I guess the best way for me to describe him, like, how that adds to his villain resume at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because, like, I liked watching him, and he's just kind of comforting it in a lot of ways. Maybe I was misreading it, but, like, that wasn't his character, right? Like, his real-life persona, so I don't really know how to feel about that at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think when the hippo was talking about going to, like, a place as a trauma response, and then when Mark was really, like, breaking down in front of Steven and then shooting back there was a lot of layers in this episode of, like, consciousness that they didn't really delineate very clearly. But I think it was interesting that Mark's sort of, like, safe mental barrier place is a room where he's talking to someone who looks like the villain of the show. I don't know what there is to read into there. I haven't done much reading into that, but like I said, I love Ethan Hawke, so seeing him be able to, like, do something different, like you said, doesn't really add to his villain, but just what he's bringing to the show, I think it did a lot for me this episode.
I'll say, I'm glad I was wrong about where we ended up. Like, yeah. I was like, oh, this is just going to be a dream sequence. And I think it, like, might function similarly. Like, we're going to get Mark back to where he is, but this had stakes in a way where I wasn't expecting it to. Like, Steven presumably is gone, which is very sad. And this didn't end up being, I think, what a lot of people maybe thought was this would be like what was actually happening, and I think that would have negated what they set up for the first like 4 episodes. So I think this was really interesting, especially them tying it into like, I know this is might be weird, but like belief and like where people end up, and for it seems like the MCU is taking the approach that like whatever you believe is what happens, because like they referenced the ancestral plane from Black Panther, which is just like another realm of afterlife. So it seems like there's just multiple, which is cool. I kind of like that.
Yeah. When is the Jesus Christ cameo gonna happen?
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean we passed Easter, so maybe a Christmas related Jesus cameo.
That is who Mark Hamill is playing in the Guardians holiday special.
Right.
Jesus
I didn't
Christ
know he.
himself.
I didn't know he was in the Guardians.
Yeah, I heard about that very recently.
That's cool, man. I
Yeah.
never really considered Mark Hamill being in the MCU. That's sweet.
Yeah. I don't know if that was true or not, but I feel like I saw somebody, and maybe James Gunn said something about it. I forget, but
I could see Mark Hamill wanting to work with James Gunn.
oh, for sure. Absolutely. But yeah, a lot emotionally happened in this episode. I don't think much happened narratively beyond the progression of Mark and Steven, and I guess specifically Mark. But is there anything we didn't touch on? Not to be just super superficial with it, but the birth of Moon Knight, that was kind of cool, right?
Yeah. It was a very dark episode, and that was one of those moments. Seeing like I think this is the aftermath of the situation he referred to with Layla's father. So seeing that was, and like him at literally quite like his lowest point, just ending up with Khonshu. Um, yeah, it's really like kind of sad to see Mark's character go from someone who's physically abused by a parent to becoming a mercenary, getting in like a really raw deal, and then being like manipulated by Khonshu at the end. So that was really interesting to like actually see. This was like quite literally the origin of Mark Spector and Moon Knight, both in one episode, which I thought they handled very well. And that kind of leads me to think like where we're gonna end up with Khonshu, because it doesn't seem like they're in a good symbiotic relationship. It doesn't seem like we're heading in any clear direction of like, are we gonna keep doing this together? Because it seems like Marcus probably figured out like, oh no, probably shouldn't be here with you. But at the same time, I like him as Moon Knight, so not really sure where we're gonna end up with that.
Yeah, because I think unless the logic tracks in a way that I'm not thinking, I feel like because gods are always lying sons of bitches, if Conchi lets go of Mark, Mark's probably just gonna drop dead, right? Because he's a dead man.
Yeah,
No.
I that might be like the rationale. Like, hey, like you literally need me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm also interested to see like how they revive him. Does Conchu just be like, no, you're good now?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe now that he's accepted who he is, where he's come from, he can choose to accept Khonshu again willingly of his own accord, even though he would need him to be revived again. Like maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know. That's
Um,
why I'm worried about next episode. It's gonna be a lot
yeah.
of like weird answers, I think.
So before we wrap up, I just want to look ahead to next week a little bit. I know we did already, but what is going to be left unanswered, do you think? Because I really, I'm with you. They're probably just going to make it a fight scene. I would love if it was just 40 minutes of character development and leaving on a very strong note. But do they follow this up with a? Does Blade show up in the post credits? Is that what's going to happen? Is there going to be I need your help with something, and then it's like Moon Knight will return in Phase 5 with Blade? Is it gonna be here's a Moon Knight project, here's a season 2 reveal? Like, what are you expecting?
I think the third persona is only addressed like at the very end or in an end credit. I know a lot of people have been kind of thinking on the internet like, oh, that's going to show. Like, obviously that has been referenced, so I think it'd be really weird in like the middle of the final fight to be like, I gotta bring the other guy out that we really haven't seen at all. That would kind of be out of nowhere, and that would definitely leave a sore taste in my mouth unless it's handled well, which I'm kind of thinking it won't be. So I think that will be at like the very end, and it will just focus on defeating Ethan Hawke and somehow wrapping up the relationship with Layla. I don't really know how they're gonna square that one. Seems like quite the situation. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going in very pessimistically to the next episode. So
I have a theory. I have a theory.
Yeah, let's hear
I'm
it.
curious how you think about this. Because I think this could be a nice middle ground to tease whatever's coming and deal with the third personality and all that stuff. So we get the majority of the episode's a fight, right? And Moon Knight's losing. He's getting beat down. But at some point in that fight, he just starts getting more and more brutal. And he, like, you can clearly tell he gets a second wind. And then he decides to kill Harrow. And then it's like, hey, it's done. Layla's safe. Everybody's safe. Mark, Layla asks you, we can start again. We can try again. Let's go back home. And then we leave off with just them in their home together, chilling out. And then maybe she like steps away, and then like Oscar Isaac looks to the like a TV screen or a mirror, and then in the mirror you see Mark. And he's like, let me back in, give me the body back. And then it's just like, cut, Moon Knight will return.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
in the fight, the switch happens. They never really address it, but it's like, hey, we're not done.
Okay, see, that I think would be a good way to handle it. I just thought of the Thriller music video where Michael Jackson turns around and he's got the wolf head on.
Yeah.
So I think that's handled better than your theory is a lot better way of handling it than that. But yeah, I would appreciate that because it seems more subtle than just being like, "Hey, I'm the new guy." Which I don't know. I feel like that'd be so weird for them to do like in the middle of the fight, to be like so blatant about it. So I think if it is more subtle, and it seems like that would be like a cliffhanger we leave off on of like this guy who seems like he's Mark but isn't quite there. I think that'd be good. That's a great theory. I think that would make for a good finale in my opinion. Aside from the dumb fighting we're gonna get.
Right? Yeah. Because, like, from what we've seen of the third personality, much more violent, seemingly much more repressed because of what the coffin, like, was, like, laying down, did not open, right? And then I think the audience cares about Layla. We're into her as a character. So if the final note of the season is that Mark, this character we were rooting for and got a really satisfying growth moment out of, is locked away, and Layla is living with this person who we have no idea who he is aside from the fact that he's a murderer, that's a good season ending, you know? Like I
That's
think
a great ending. Yeah, no, I agree.
that it can make up for a whatever fight. I think it really could.
Sure. No, I agree. I think that would leave off on a really interesting note. So
Yeah.
if that's the way they handle it, I think I'll be impressed.
Yeah, so if it's something like that, if there is some subtle fun, well, maybe not fun, but like some subtle character tease of, I guess, still having stakes, that could be something I'd look forward to.
Sure.
So, curious to see what our final thoughts are on Moon Knight. We will not be discussing it next week, correct? Because we are
That's
taking
right.
a week off next week.
Yeah, I'm seeing Doctor Strange the night we usually record, and got some other stuff going on that weekend. So, I'll be doing I think we'll be doing a recording sometime on that Monday or Tuesday of that week.
Yeah, so that should be. Let me look at a calendar real quick.
Christian, you keep going with the show. I gotta just put my cat away real quick in the
Okay.
other room. I'll be back
So
in
for
30 seconds.
listeners, we will most likely be recording our Doctor Strange episode and probably Moon Knight finale on May 9th. most likely in the afternoon East Coast time. I can probably get the episode up Monday night for timely impressions on Doctor Strange and what's going on with Moon Knight. So that'll probably be the focus. We both doubt there's going to be any significant Marvel's Avengers stuff. So yeah, May 9th, just probably 20 minutes of Moon Knight, and then I'd imagine like 40 of Doctor Strange. And then, of course, we'd return to having another episode, as usual, the following weekend. So
yeah, definitely looking forward to talking Doctor Strange, because, like, not a Doctor Strange guy in terms of the movie. Really have enjoyed his character since that movie. So this could be a bounce back situation for me. I'm looking forward to it.
here's hoping. But until next time, Jack, where can the agents of Excelsior find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at FascinatedJack. What about you, Christian?
You can find me on Twitter and TikTok at Chun2D2. YouTube.com/JoyClicks is where you can find the video version of Excelsior alongside gaming videos here or there. You can check us out on your favorite podcast service like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just look up Excelsior, JoyClicks, Marvel's Avengers podcast. You will find us. Rating and reviewing is free 99 for you and helps the show a ton. And we appreciate it if you do it. Takes a quick second. If you want to support the shows further, you can do so by going to patreon.com/joyclicks at the $1 and $5 tiers. $5 will give you producer credit on every show we produce, like Aaron Easton and Jose Garcia. So thank you very much. And that is it for Excelsior. We'll be back 2 weeks from now, but kind of a week and a half, for Doctor Strange. Look forward to it. Enjoy the film. Stay safe at your theater. Wear a mask. Be smart. Order yourself the large popcorn. Just go for it. It's a big blockbuster. And we will see you then. Excelsior.
Excelsior.